Hey everyone, it's Lisa from the blog farmhouseonboone.com, and today I want to do a much requested video, and that is all about cast iron skillets. So how to season them, how to cook with them, how to clean them, and just why we love them so much here in the farmhouse. Okay, so I've had a lot of questions about cast iron. I would say the most frequently asked question, which I'll just get out of the way here right at the beginning, is if you can use them on a glass cooktop. I actually put the question out to my followers if they also use cast iron on glass, and everyone overwhelmingly who uses cast iron said that yes, they do with no problems at all. So I think it's kind of a myth. If you look closely on my stovetop, there might be scratches. I haven't really given it too much inspection, but the glass is never shattered and the food always cooks right, and so I think it totally is fine. I did have someone mention that you should never put an ice cold skillet onto a hot stove, but even though I didn't know that was something you shouldn't do, that's a scenario I've never actually encountered, so I've never had an ice cold skillet on a hot stove. So don't do that if for some reason that would come up, but I don't think it naturally would. I've never had a problem. If you're worried about scratches, I'd say be careful not to run it across the stove. First up, we'll talk about seasoning, because that's the very beginning. Let's say you find a bargain cast iron skillet at a thrift shop or something. You need to get it in working order. And I actually have two skillets that were just like that I found at a thrift shop at some point that were in my cabinet that I need to season. And so I'm going to go through that process with you. These skillets I've been using for years, and so they are well seasoned. I did that process years ago with them, never needed to redo it, ever. And they are perfectly non-stick, really great skillets. They didn't come that way, but they are. So we're gonna do that process here with my new skillets that I found at a thrift shop. And then we will go on to talking about tips with cooking with them and cleaning. Here are the skillets I have. I could definitely see the use for one more on my back burner. And as you can see, it's rusty and dirty and it's got a lot of scratches on it. It just doesn't look ready to cook in at all. In fact, if I tried, food would be stuck all over it. I also have this, I guess it's a grill pan, maybe for grilling meat, and you guys can correct me if that's not right. I'm gonna start by washing these really good with soap and water and my stainless steel scrubber. Ordinarily, you don't use soap to clean, but this is pre-seasoning it. Getting it good and clean is really important here. Now that these are all clean, I'm gonna dry them off really, really well. I have my oven preheating on 450 degrees because I want a really, really hot temperature to season these skillets, because we want the oil to basically soak into all the pores of the cast iron because it's a very porous material. Be sure that you have off all the rust and all the dirt. Dry it down really, really well. Now we're wanting this dull surface here to have this lustrous shine like the skillets that are nicely seasoned. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna coat it with some oil. I just have some coconut oil here. You can use plain old vegetable oil if that's what you have. I like to use coconut oil. I'm gonna rub it all over the entire thing, even the outside. And then I'm gonna take my tea towel or paper towel or whatever you have and wipe off the excess oil. You don't want it pooled up. Just want it to be lightly coated. I'm gonna repeat that with the other pan. Now I have off all the excess oil. I'm gonna take these and put them into a 450 degree oven for about an hour. Depending on the condition of your skillet or pan, you may end up having to repeat this process more than one time. I'm gonna try this for an hour, get it out, see how it looks, and then I might have to repeat it, but my pans were in decent condition, I would say. Sometimes they might be completely rusted out and have no surface shine whatsoever, and you may need to do it a few more times to really get that good coating that you need for a non-stick pan. The next section I'm gonna go into is cooking with cast iron skillets. First of all, the advantages of cooking with a cast iron skillet: they heat up evenly. The entire pan holds heat, so you can get that really great sear that you just can't get with a flimsy aluminum or non-stick pan. When you use these things, you can get that crispy potato or that seared steak. I love cast iron for that reason. The first key in using cast iron is to preheat. You have to preheat the skillet or everything will stick like crazy. I talked about this in my how to make crispy potatoes in a cast iron skillet video. The secret is preheating, and if you're gonna cook with any fat, it's preheating the fat on the skillet. When I'm making fried eggs, which I will make them, you know, over easy with the yolk intact, I preheat the butter on medium and I won't drop the egg in until it sizzles. Same with pancakes. I will preheat this with the coconut oil in it, and then once the pancake will sizzle, I'll put it on, and it just needs the one flip. You don't want to flip a lot. So if you preheat some fat and you want to sear a steak really quickly, if you drop that steak on and then you find that it's hard to pull it up from the pan, that means it's not ready. If you give it a little bit more time, that coat will develop on the outside of the steak and it will remove really easily. And so you never want to flip something that won't readily come up from a cast iron skillet. So those keys there are preheating and not flipping a lot. Another key is you're gonna need a little bit of fat to cook with. And not only does that make it not stick at all, it also acts as a re-seasoning for the pan. So pretty much every time I'm using these pans, they are getting some more seasoning because I'm having heat and fat interact for them to fill the pores of the pan. Even though I've never officially re-seasoned these pans, they're basically getting re-seasoned every time I cook with them. People wonder too, what kind of utensils? I've heard people say that you're not allowed to use something scratchy like metal. I find that to be false, even if that is officially the way to do it. I can say I've been using these for years and I love my stainless steel flipper. This is what I use for everything. I don't find that it hurts the surface whatsoever. So this is what I use. You don't want to use plastic because these pans get so hot that your plastic would probably melt and it just wouldn't hold up against a pan that gets this hot and holds this much heat. So another advantage of cast iron is it can transfer to the oven. So let's say you have a big cast iron Dutch oven, for example, and you sear a pot roast. Well, then you can put everything in and then you can stick it straight into the oven and you don't have to worry about transferring it. Sometimes I might start something on the stovetop and then I have the oven going, or I want to keep something warm in the oven or something like that. I can always transfer without switching pans. So these are great for baking. I even bake pizza in this cast iron skillet with a homemade crust. I can bake the entire thing in the oven. These are definitely strong enough to hold up to any kind of temperature. The handle doesn't keep from getting hot whenever you heat these. So I have this silicone thing. It's the Lodge brand, just like my cast iron skillets, the Lodge brand. Those are really helpful, or just need to have a lot of hot pads around. What kind of things do I cook in these? Basically anything. I already mentioned eggs, pancakes, meat, potatoes. I wouldn't want to use it to boil anything. If I'm going to steam up some carrots, for example, I'm still going to use my stainless steel pots for that. Anything that would require a lot of water, I'm still going to use stainless steel for. Anything that requires fat or has fat in it, I love my cast iron for. I like to use it to make bread items like English muffins and pizza crusts. Also great to saute veggies. I will throw in a little bit of butter with some sliced zucchini or carrots. So they're very versatile and you can use it for a lot of things. Let's move on to cleaning cast iron. I've heard a lot of different opinions on this, and all I'm gonna tell you is what I do because it has worked for me for many years without me having to re-season these pans. I don't use soap. However, one thing I do use that I've read that you're not supposed to use is the steel wool or the Chore Boy stainless steel scrubbers. I find those to be excellent if you do get something that sticks on. You can use those and I don't see any negative effects on the seasoning. So I use those all the time and I use those over soap. Let's say that I have just made pancakes and there's maybe some batter stuck around the outsides, but mostly down here in the main part of the cooking area. everything came up and nothing is sticking. Because usually if you do get some sticking, it will happen around this outside rim because that part didn't get preheated as much as obviously the surface that had direct contact with the stove. So usually if I have anything sticking, it's gonna stick on these areas. I had that scenario. I'm making sourdough pancakes and something sticks there. I will take a tea towel like this one and I'll go over to the trash can or to the bowl that I'm bringing out to the chickens and I'll just knock all that stuff off like this, or I'll scrape it with this and get all of that off. And then I'll just rub it out like this and then just leave it until the next meal. And I won't clean it at all. I will say, if you are going to be using your skillets on a daily basis or many times a day, which is what I do, these don't get put away, then cleaning it in between time is not really important. However, if you're a person who's gonna use them, say, once a week, like let's say you are busy all week, but you cook on the weekends, and your cast iron skillets are gonna be put away in a cabinet to be stored for the week, you're definitely gonna wanna wash them more thoroughly. If that is your scenario, you're gonna wanna take your cast iron skillet over to your sink, scrub it out really good, get everything off. I like to use my stainless steel scrubbers. Then you're going to wanna dry it thoroughly. This is very, very important because a lot of people have a lot of trouble with rust, and that is the reason, is they are not dried thoroughly. If there's even a speck of water on them, within minutes, there's gonna be rust on it. So take them and then just take this and just dry it out. And I will dry, you know, the bottom, every little area needs to be dry. Also, some people will take their skillet over, set it on their burner, turn their burner on high and let the heat evaporate any water off of it. You could do that too. So whichever method you choose, just make sure it is dry before you store it, or you're definitely gonna encounter a rust issue. Also, if you're using one of these, I learned the hard way the first time that I washed it and then just stuck this right back on, and so then my handle was rusty. So I don't usually leave this on. I kind of just leave it over on my stove like this, or if I've washed it, I'll just set it up kind of sitting on its edge so that any water can fall out and I'm sure that it's thoroughly dry before I'll stick it back on so I don't have a rusty handle. But if you're gonna be cooking in this daily, like let's say in the morning I make bacon, I will pretty much leave all the fat just in there in little bacon bits, and as long as I'm gonna be cooking again in it later, I've never encountered any problems with that. I will leave any excess fat, like let's say I made crispy potatoes and the potatoes didn't soak up all of the coconut oil that I used, I will just leave that in there for the next meal so that I can utilize that coconut oil to make whatever I'm making next without wasting it. If you're gonna be using them often, don't worry about washing them. Just make sure if you use water ever that they are dry. Please let me know in the comments below if I left anything out and I can answer those questions, or maybe even make a part 2 video if I didn't address something that you're concerned about. I want you to know that cast iron is so easy to use. It is not hard to care for at all. In fact, in some ways it's way easier because these pans just stay here. They're ready for me to cook in them. I don't really have to clean them that often. They are non-stick, so they are just the easiest pans ever. Once they're seasoned and then used often, they are the most low maintenance thing. As a quick demonstration, before I get my other pans that are seasoning out of the oven to show you how they turned out, I wanna show you how I make fried eggs in these and how they don't stick with a little bit of preheating and no flipping until the very end. Okay, I'm preheating this skillet on medium. So I'm kind of hovering my hand over it to see if it's hot enough. And it feels like it is, so I'm gonna drop on some butter. Now butter is my preferred cooking fat for eggs. I don't really know why, but I like coconut oil for pancakes and butter for eggs. Not sure why that even is, but I find the best results with non-sticking with that setup. So this looks ready just by the way the butter is sizzling. Now I'm just gonna drop on a couple eggs. I do find that if you do too many at once, it becomes hard to flip. And if they fall apart while flipping, you'll have a hard time keeping that yolk intact. So sometimes I'll do up to 5 or something like that, but I'm just gonna do 2 right now. Now the main goal is to get them to cook most of the way through before flipping. So I need my skillet here to be down just a little so that it doesn't get too hot and burn the bottom before I'm ready to flip, because I want it to come up really easily. I really like yolks intact over scrambled eggs, so it's important to me to have a non-stick skillet that doesn't have all the chemicals that coated non-stick skillets have. You can see that they are just totally coming up. They're sliding around the pan, no problem. Okay, so you can see that cast iron truly is non-stick if there was ever any doubt. When I pull these up from the pan, I will not have to wash it because no part of this egg is gonna be left behind. Just some butter, which will be great when I'm cooking my next meal. Please note that cast iron skillets really hold heat. So if something is done to the way you like it, for example, the eggs that I just made, you wanna instantly take them and pull them off the heat, or your yolk's gonna get cooked all the way through, because this continues to cook well beyond the time that you remove it from the heat. Got these skillets out of the oven. This one I put in for about an hour at 450 degrees. And with this one, I actually had to repeat the process because it was pretty scratched up. But they both have a nice shiny non-stick surface now, so ready to cook with. All seasoned. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you found it helpful. If this is your first time stopping by and you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. I make lots of videos on food from scratch, natural living, and a handmade home. Thank you so much for stopping by the farmhouse.